Okay, good afternoon to those of you who have just joined. You're very welcome. We're going to give it another 30 seconds to a minute just to make sure everyone has had a chance to join who is joining today, and then we will start the webinar. Thanks for your patience.
Maya, you're mute.
Okay, thank you, Mariette. I've just started speaking, and one of my colleagues has told me I am mute, so I have to start again. Thank you for that. To start again, thanks everyone for joining. You're very welcome. This is the first informational webinar for the Transition Agenda Call, the first call of the Transition Agenda Call under the BlueActionAA project. This call is funded through the BlueActionAA project, which in turn is funded under Horizon Europe as a cascade funding call. The webinar is an opportunity for potential applicants who are interested in applying to this call to join and for us to give you as much information as we can in relation to the scope of the call, the application procedures, general guidelines for applicants, some of the services and resources we can provide to you from the BlueActionAA partners to help you put together a good call, and also how then we will evaluate and manage the call selection process. So without further ado, my colleague from ESF, Mariette, is going to share the screen, or has shared the screen. So if we could just go to full display, Mariette, that would be great. And we can start working through the slide deck. And please do, we have obviously the chat, which people are introducing themselves on, which is very, very nice. Please do that. But we also have a Q&A button on Zoom, and we do encourage you to log any questions you have going through. We'll also tell you where you can go to find out more information, of course, but the purpose of this webinar is so that we can answer your questions live today if you have any questions. So please do use the Q&A as well, and we will run through those either during or at the end of the session. Okay, so with that, I will move on to the next slide, if we may. Great. Oh, we've lost the slides.
Actually, I'm sorry. Can you see it full screen? I think I'm confused. Could you see it full screen?
No, I think when you pressed on full screen,
okay.
we actually lost it. So there's probably something.
I apologize for this.
No, it's okay.
Is this better now?
It's just coming. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
We have it now. Thanks. Okay, so really this is just quickly to introduce you to some of the colleagues who are part of the BlueActionAA consortium and who are involved in organizing the webinar today. So we have colleagues from the European Science Foundation, from the University of Aveiro, from the AIR Center, from the Marine Institute, and from NEVA. My name is Niall McDonough. I'm from the Marine Institute, and together with all of these colleagues, we have been putting together this webinar series for 2 calls, which I'll update you on a little later, but this is the first for the Transition Agenda Call. I should also acknowledge that we have colleagues from another partner, Syntef Ocean, as well, who are involved in the Transition Agenda Calls. Next slide, please, Mariette. Okay, so just to let you know what we will be speaking about today, I will give a brief introduction to the BlueActionAA project, and in particular the mission, because of course the Blue Action AA is a Horizon Europe project that is associated with the European mission Restore Our Ocean Waters and Waters by 2030. So a little bit of reflection on that. Then I'll hand over to Mariette from ESF, who will introduce the call itself and some of the application procedures that apply to this call, guidelines for applicants, dates and deadlines, and all of that. My colleague Sebastian from NIVA in Norway will then give us a short update on the technical support service that we provide to potential applicants and ultimately to projects that will be funded under this call. We'll close out in terms of the evaluation, an update on the to take you through the application evaluation process, some information on how the funds and payment milestones will be managed, deadlines and timelines, and then we will finish with a question and answer session. So we'll be open to your questions, and as I said, please use the Q&A. You have on your screen now a QR code for a Slido survey. We would really appreciate those of you who have joined this afternoon as potential applicants under this transition agenda call. If you would take the survey on Slido using the QR code, it's really just an opportunity for us to get a little bit more information from you about where you're coming from, your interest in the call, the scope of a potential application, and so on. So we do encourage you to do the Slido survey using the QR code on the screen. Thanks. The link, I should say, is also in the chat. So if you've missed the QR code, please use the link in the chat. Okay, let's start then with a little bit of background information on the EU missions and specifically the EU mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters by 2030. So the purpose here is that many people who are involved in Horizon Europe projects and so on would probably have a fairly good understanding of the Horizon Europe missions. However, we are hoping with these community-led and transition agenda calls under the Blue Action AA project to reach a wider group of interested potential applicants who may not be so acutely aware or tied into the discussions on the missions. And so if you are familiar with this, please just bear with us. But I think we actually hope that some of you are new to this, because that means we're reaching a little bit of a wider audience, community-led groups and island communities and ports and NGOs and so on. So we are really looking to reach a wider group because we are into the mission implementation phase now, and that involves a much wider range of stakeholders. Okay, next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the European Union through the Horizon Europe program is supporting 5 missions actually. Other missions are covering things like soil, cancers, cities, and so on. The mission we're dealing with here is focused on ocean and waters. So it's called Restore Our Ocean and Waters by 2030. And really this is about taking tangible action to protect and restore marine ecosystems, to reduce, prevent and eliminate pollution of our oceans, seas and waters, and also to make the blue economy, that's kind of sectoral and commercial activities at sea, neutral and circular. So really reducing human impact on our oceans and actually working to restore and protect the health of our ocean and inland water ecosystems. In the grey there on this slide, you just see some, I won't read them all out, you see some of the kind of targets that have been set under these 3 high-level priorities, which I've mentioned: protect and store ecosystems, prevent and eliminate pollution, and make the sustainable blue economy carbon neutral. So those are the sort of high-level goals of this mission. And then at the bottom, you see 2 enablers. One is that the implementation of the mission will necessarily be supported by a digital ocean and waters knowledge system, and there are substantial investments and projects underway to really enhance the ocean observing capacity we have and to collect data and information on our ocean and water systems that enable us to track the health of those systems and any impacts that human activities are having in those ecosystems. And the second enabler is public mobilization and engagement. So the missions are really targeted not just at a small kind of narrow group of the research community, but at a much broader stakeholder community, as I mentioned earlier, across society. So we all have a role and a stake in implementing the mission. Next slide, please. We are now into the second phase of mission implementation as we move through the Horizon Europe EU Horizon Europe program. The first phase was very much focused on piloting and demonstration type projects, and the second phase is taking the results of those projects and moving to scale up towards implementation and delivering tangible impact-driven actions on the ground. One of the things that was decided early on in the mission process was to create these lighthouse regions so that there was a more geographical focus for implementation of the mission in different sea basin or river and sea basin areas. So there are four what are called lighthouse areas: the Baltic and North Sea Basin, the Mediterranean Sea, the Danube River Basin, and the Atlantic and Arctic areas. And just to be clear, the Blue Mission AA project and the projects that we will fund through the calls within the Blue Action AA project. Sorry, I said Blue Mission, Blue Action AA. They are focused on the Atlantic and Arctic region. So we are very much in that space. We have sister projects, to put it that way, that are also running calls in the other three lighthouse areas. And we would draw your attention, we might put those in the chat if possible, the links to those. For each of these areas, there is a different project. So Blue Action AA is focused on the Atlantic and Arctic. Thanks. Next slide, please. I've kind of covered this already, just to mention that phase one was very much a piloting phase, focused on implementing solutions in those lighthouse regions. And we're now into phase two, which is deployment, right? So scaling up some of those solutions, really delivering impact at multiple geographical scales. And there are multiple requirements here. We need to ensure that the mission is very much anchored within the governance system, both at multiple scales, from local right through to national at an EU level. We need broad participation from a much wider group of stakeholders. We need clear projects and mechanisms to scale and deploy solution-focused activities in rivers and sea basins. And that's where Blue Action will come in, because we're providing support through these calls that we have within the project for actual work to be done in terms, and there are two types of calls which I'll come to in the next slide, but we're just dealing with the transition agenda calls today. Again, this is something I've more than covered, but it just gives you a nice a map with a more geographical understanding of the four lighthouse regions. And as I've mentioned, we've got there's sister cascade funding projects for each of these, all of which now have calls open. Next slide, please. One of the key principles of the Blue Action AA is putting local communities at the heart of the solutions we're looking to deliver around restoring our ocean and waters. So this is, all actors have a role to play, but sometimes it's harder to reach and to mobilize local actors and local communities, and yet the best solutions and the most sustainable solutions are those that will be put in place on the ground at the local level and where local communities are involved. So we really are targeting that in terms of that constituency, in terms of the calls under Blue Action AA, and the transition agenda calls are no different there. Next slide, please. Just very briefly to mention who's involved in the Blue Action AA project. So we are the project partners, the consortium that are managing this project, and then organizing the calls themselves and managing all of the call process and the project the project funding and follow-ups, etc. So there are 8 partners in the BlueActionAA Consortium. Air Centre from Portugal, Marine Institute from Ireland coordinating, European Science Foundation, which is managing, they're based in Strasbourg but with an international focus, managing the calls. NIVA from Norway, Plocan from Spain, Sintef Ocean from Norway, University of Aveiro in Portugal, and University of Southern Denmark. So those are the 8 partners, many of which of whom are represented on this call and have on this webinar and have supported its organization. So nearly finished from my side before I hand you over to Mariette. One of the things we included this slide because it's really important for those of you who are joining to understand that there are there is more than one call being managed through the BlueActionAA project. Specifically to say there is one community-led pilot call and there are 2 transition agenda calls. The community-led call is also open. It has been open since November, and it is for larger scale projects ranging in funding from 200,000 up to 2 million, and we hope to fund in or around 5 projects, community-led projects, and they're real deployment on the ground calls. For example, in ecosystem restoration projects, sustainable blue economy projects, pollution reduction projects, active impact focused projects. The webinar today, however, is focused on our transition agenda call, right? So we've already had 2 webinars for the community-led calls. They are available on the website. If you're interested in those, you can go and have a look at them. But this webinar is about the transition agenda calls. These are smaller awards up to a maximum of 100,000 euros, and they are specifically designed for groups or entities to develop transition agendas or strategic roadmaps. And these are essentially plans that are put together to set out, let's say, actions, roles and responsibilities, objectives and timelines to deliver mission objectives. So it's giving an opportunity to put a planning process in place through the delivery of a transition agenda, which can then be turned into concrete action subsequently. We will fund up to 20 transition agenda projects, and as I said, maximum of 100,000 euros. So smaller grants and awards, but a larger number of projects to be funded. So just to be sure that you're in the transition agenda webinar today. Just specifically to focus on the team that's actually speaking today. So on the bottom right hand corner, I'm from Niall McDonough from the Marine Institute in Galway in Ireland. We will hear shortly from our colleagues in ESF, Mariette van der Merch and Emmanuel Detsis. So Mariette will continue from the next slide and take us through the call process itself and some of the guidelines around making an application. And then Sebastian Kopp from NIVA will also present on the technical assistance support that we provide. So you'll hear from Mariette and Sebastian shortly. So I think that's all of the slides from me, and I hand over from here to Mariette. Over to you, Mariette, please.
Thank you very much, Niall. So yes, let me introduce you a bit more details about the call. So the BlueActionAA Transition Agenda Call is focusing on the development of transition agendas within the Atlantic and Arctic Basin. For the purpose of this call, a transition agenda is a strategic roadmap or a multi-year plan to support the achievement of the mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters by 2030 that were presented by Niall earlier. So the plans and roadmaps will set out the priorities, the specific actions, the expected results and planned impact of the project. They will identify concrete pathways for implementation, scaling, and future financing. What we are providing, so financial aid through cascading grants, as well as technical assistance, as Niall said. We aim to distribute a total of 1 million for this call. So as Niall said, we'll have 2 transition agenda calls. So for this first one, we have 1 million to distribute. The maximum is 100,000 euros per project. And the duration of project will be between 6 and 18 months. And this funding will be distributed in the form of lump sum. I will go back to this later in my presentation. The duration is up to the applicants to decide. So this is depending on the project. So you can decide between 6 to 18 months. And we'll be funding a minimum of 10 projects for this call. The transition agenda call is designed to support the development of transition agendas. So a bit more, some definitions of what we expect. So strategic roadmaps to guide mission communities in achieving the mission's objectives and ensuring long-term impacts by supporting the deployment, scaling up of mission-relevant solutions. Policy recommendations targeted at the governance level. And this can also be regulatory innovation proposals to facilitate cross-sectoral collaboration and utilization of emerging technologies and data assets relevant to the mission objectives. About the eligible applicants, so we first need applicants that are established or registered in any of the following countries. So the member states of the European Union, including their outermost regions, the overseas countries and territories linked to the member states, and Horizon Europe associated countries at the time when BlueActionAA grant entered into force, which is September 2025. While we have no restrictions, we invite project coordinator that we also call lead applicants. We encourage you to be from the Atlantic and Arctic Basin countries and territories, meaning France, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, Norway, Iceland, Greenland, Faroe Island, and Canada. Concerning the eligible entities, you must be from the following target groups: regional and local public authorities, non-governmental organization, foundation, professional associations, civil society and citizen associations, SMEs and large enterprises, cultural and educational organizations, and finally, relevant EU research infrastructures, research organization, and academia. The consortium composition for this call, this is allowed to apply as an individual entity, and you can have up to 6 entities per consortia, no more. And you must have some established link with the local and regional communities. About the expected outcome, as said earlier, the application should prepare strategic roadmaps or actionable multi-year plan to support the achievement of the mission, restore our ocean and waters by 2030, and a defined plan focusing on actionable and reasonable results that will consist of a basis for concrete follow-up activities. About the multiple submission and funding limits, multiple submissions are allowed, but each entity can only be funded once in the frame of the BlueActionAA program. So this is quite important to have in mind. When an entity participates and is approved for funding in more than one application under our calls, then this applicant will be required to choose the application under which they wish to receive funding. So the multiple application must be taken with great care because even if this multiplies your chances of funding, you might penalize the whole consortium. In addition, the funding limit per entity is 100,000 euros. This applies to each beneficiary in the consortium rather than the consortium as a whole. What does it mean? For example, if you request 100,000 for your project, which is the maximum funding for those projects, you must have at least 2 entities in your consortium. We kindly invite you to fill this expression of interest. We want to gather the preliminary interest in our calls, and there is no time limit to fill this expression of interest. So you have the link here, and I think this will be put in the chat. So please do not hesitate to fill it. So that is very useful content for us. And now I give the floor to Sebastian, my colleague Sebastian, about the technical support.
Thank you, Mariette. BlueActionAA provides also technical assistance to projects that are selected for funding. So let me convey the most important message clearly right now at the start. BlueActionAA wants you to succeed. We succeed if you succeed, so we want you to succeed. Thus, we provide you with the opportunity for needs-based technical assistance. This is clearly not a generic type of assistance, but directly based on the needs you identify yourself. The second important thing I want to convey is that this assistance is not necessarily only technical in a narrow sense. Rather, this technical assistance focuses on guidance, on advice, on access to relevant expertise and networks, whatever you will consider relevant. Technical assistance here can support you in areas such as monitoring methods, things like stakeholder engagement, project design, or impact and cost-benefit considerations. The aim is to help projects, meaning your successful projects, to deliver their objectives while aligning with the wider BlueActionAA vision laid down in this call so far. So while Mariette kindly changes to the next slide, you might now think, this is great. This is the best call ever. It even provides needs-based assistance. Perfect. But how do we let you know about what we need? I am glad you ask. And I might sound like the telemarketer, but I'm actually glad you ask. As applicants to this call, you not only should or shall, but you must describe the type of, and if possible, concretely expected challenges and identify any expertise gaps you might have in your consortium. This is a mandatory part of the application as we want you to succeed. You are much encouraged to already reach out to us long before you finally hand in your application. And in fact, the earlier, the better. The gaps that you outline in your application, and hopefully already before in communication with us, can be addressed in 3 different ways, all of which are clearly laid out in the call guidelines. So let me walk you through this. Firstly, by working with external experts. Secondly, by requesting limited and targeted support from the BlueActionAA consortium, meaning, for example, the persons we see around here and our institutional knowledge. Or thirdly, by joining the so-called technical assistance mentoring program. At least one of those 3. As this technical assistance is needs-based, based on the needs you identify yourself, we don't prescribe them, but you identify them yourself. The concrete final support packages are agreed through dialogue between the BlueActionAA consortium, meaning us, and your individual consortium. This is done before the grant contract is signed and depends on the very number, scope, and complexity of your funded project, funded under BlueActionAA. At any point, and this is my final note here, at any point, please don't hesitate to reach out to us for any questions you might have about the technical assistance by using the email address you see on the screen right now. And I continue to sound like a telemarketer. And the email address that also Neil has mentioned before, info@blueactionaa.eu. With that, back to you, Mariette, at the European Science Foundation.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you so much. Now let's be a bit more administrative. We'll talk about the application and evaluation process. So how to apply, we have a dedicated open platform for the open call. So in order to be able to apply to our call, you need to first create an account on the platform, and then for subsequent connection, you can use the easier link that you can see on the screen. And all the open call documents and templates are available for download on our website. So you can, if you go on our website, you will see our calls, and then you have this big apply here with, as I said, the first connection link and then the subsequent connection link. So once you click on the first connection link, you land to this page, which is basically collecting like a very simple basic information from you in order to be able to create your profile on our platform. And then for the subsequent connection, you have just this login page, and then you can connect. So once you connect on the platform, you will have access to your external applicant portal, and then you will be able to see the open calls. So don't be surprised, we use this platform for several calls, so there will be other calls named and available on the page. So just look for the one that is corresponding to you. So here you must click on apply next to the transition agenda call for BlueActionAA. Please note the deadline on the 29th of May at 2 CET. About the evaluation process, so once we reach the deadline, we'll proceed with an eligibility check. Then all applications will be pre-assessed by external evaluators based on 3 criteria: excellence, impact, and implementation. And all those criteria will be scored from 0 to 5. And then once it's done, the pre-assessments are done, our external evaluators will meet in a panel meeting, and they will produce a final ranking that will be provided to the BlueActionAA consortium. And with a final panel, the final decision will be taken, and the results of the selected applicants will be announced end of September 2026. And each applicant will receive a consensus report that will be written by the external evaluators. If you have been selected, of course, you might be interested in the distribution of the funds and the payment milestone, how to get the funds. So as I said, the grant is awarded to the project coordinator. Well, it's awarded as a lump sum scheme, meaning that the grant payments are linked to completion of milestones and deliverables, and this is not linked to actual cost evidence. So there will be no financial reporting required from you. This will be the most important will be the completion of milestones. And important to note that the grant will be awarded to the project coordinator only, and then the project coordinator will have to distribute the funds to the consortium. So I was talking about milestones. So here you have examples of what we'll be expecting from you depending on your project duration. So if you have a 6 months project, you will have 2 milestones, and you will get 20% of the funding at the end of the first months, and then 80% of the funding at the end of the last months. While for an 18 months project, you have three steps for payments, and then you have different milestones for each of them, and the funding is distributed accordingly. So about the deliverables, this will be midterm reviews, final review. You will have to provide impact analysis, etc. Of course, if you're a selected applicant, we'll have an onboarding session with, and we'll explain you everything, but this at least gives you an idea how the funds will be distributed. So about the timeline, so the call opened end of January, and the deadline to submit your application will be end of May. Please keep in mind that this is the deadline, but we really encourage you to submit before the deadline, and above all, do not plan to submit your project at 1 on the 29th, because you might have some technical issues with the platform, and of course we'll be doing our best. We'll be available on the help desk, but that would be a pity to miss an extra application just because you had technical issues with the platform. So please do your best not to submit on the 29th at 2, but a bit before. That would be very useful to all of us, and will reduce stress. Then after the deadline for submission, we'll have the evaluation period. So we'll be evaluating your proposals between June and September, and the results will be communicated on the 30th of September 2026. Once we have announced the results, we will contact the selected grantee, and we'll start the process of the sub-agreements, sub-grantee agreement signatures. So your legal signatory, the legal signatory of the coordinator, so you will have to sign the sub-grant agreement with ESF. And this agreement will be describing the rules and the deliverables and what you're expected to do in order to receive the funding. So the sub-grant agreement signature will be between the 1st of October and will run on the entire month of October, and the project will start in November. We remind you the help desk, so if you have technical questions concerning the submission platform or the Cascada Call grant process, you can contact us at technical.support@blueactionaa.eu. And any extra question you might have, you can contact info@blueactionaa.eu. Remind you, do not forget to fill our expression of interest. This is very useful for us. So if you have time to do it, please, that would be very useful. I think the link is on the chat, so please take time to do it. We also have a website and also social media. We're sharing many interesting information. We'll have thematic webinars organized very soon, and we are trying to update those pages as much as possible. So please follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And now I stop talking, and this is time for Q&A. So you're very welcome. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we've been, thanks Mariette and Sebastian. That's the end of the, as Mariette said, of the actual slide deck and presentation. We've been having questions come through on the Q&A during the course of the session, and colleagues have been responding to these questions. One thing to note or to repeat is that we will take some of these questions as guidelines and if necessary update a draft set of FAQs, frequently asked questions, that we are preparing right now. It is more or less ready to go, but we wanted to wait until we finish today to add any additional points before we publish it on our website. But those FAQs will be on the website within very soon. So let's see, we two open questions. Yeah, yes, we'll be sharing the recording. The recording will be posted on the BlueActionAA website. So if you just go online, search for BlueActionAA, you'll find our website. And all of the recordings of all of the webinars, for both the community-led call and the transition agenda call, are available on the website, so you can watch them via the YouTube recording. Yeah, it will be very helpful for all the attendees. Yeah, okay, thank you. So just to reflect quickly then on other questions that have come in. Yeah, there is a question here which we probably would need a little bit more information. So from Dr. Ina Rosenblatt from insectica.com. Part of our production process, wondering if as an early stage startup we are eligible to submit for this grant. Yes, there's no restriction from you participating in an application. Yeah. Bear in mind that maximum grant aid for a transition agenda project is 100,000 euros, as Mariette pointed out, but for individual partners is 75,000 euros. So if you enter as an individual partner, you cannot request more than 75,000 euros, but also please also note the requirement to have that link to local and regional communities, which is really important. We had a question about can two entities, or can the same entity apply and be funded under both community-led and transition agenda calls? So sorry, in my answer I said yes. The answer is no. I said yes in the sense, and Emmanuel has actually also added here from ESF. You can apply, sorry, that's why I said yes. You can apply, but you cannot be funded twice. You can apply more than once. You can apply more than once in the same call or in a community-led call and a transition or application and a transitional agenda application. However, the rules for Horizon Europe Cascade funding, financial support to third parties, are very clear that we cannot, an entity cannot be funded once, more than once under BlueActionAA. So if you are successful, if you apply and are successful in 2 or more proposals, then you will have to choose which one you'll go forward on. And it's really important that you take that into account if you're choosing to do that, because that could compromise then the projects the other projects you're involved in, which you're not going to choose to go forward with. Okay, another question then, can you explain more about the requirement of having a link with local and regional communities? And Emmanuel has given a good detailed answer to this one. Really, it's just about ensuring that these are community-led. It is a community-led initiative. It's about engaging with communities. So if you put in an application, for example, if you are from a research institution and you just put in an application for a one partner project where you're going to put together a desk study for a plan without engaging with local community actors, etc., or involving them as partners, then clearly that's not in scope. You need to involve and demonstrably involved local community actors.
Next year question also is still open. Is it possible to include in the consortia an entity outside of the area of action? For example, if its activities are carried out in Spain, can one of the partners be from Norway? Yes, of course. We just ask that we invite the coordinator to be part of those territories that we mentioned, but if you are from an eligible country as a co-applicant, this is absolutely fine.
Okay, so then there's a question, thanks Mariette, there's a question, are you looking for at more transnational actions or local and regional? We can support both. The emphasis is probably more on the local and regional, being honest. That's very much in the scope of what we're trying to achieve with these calls. However, if there is, for example, a topic or an issue-based challenge where transnational partners are working together to address a specific shared challenge, that's fine, that's in scope. But on the ground solutions at local and regional level are more probably likely to be the more common. So both. The answer though is both. They're both eligible. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Open to. Can Greenlandic organizations? Yes, absolutely. Greenlandic organizations can apply. In fact, are encouraged to apply, and if possible, even coordinate or lead. So that is yes. So in the guidelines, which are available, so we've yet to post the FAQs on the website, just as I mentioned earlier. However, the formal guidelines for applicants are available on the website, and we would remind you that if you look at those, you will see again, just to repeat, Mariette has already outlined them earlier, but just again to say the countries that are eligible are listed there, also in the guidelines. I don't think we have a percentage, Emmanuel and Mariette, but you can confirm. But the key point about subcontracting is it's only feasible if it's an activity that's not possible within the consortium, if the capacity within the consortium is not available. But actually, let me check with my ESF colleagues just to be sure.
No, that's correct, Neil. It's we kind of follow the easy rule. I mean, you cannot subcontract core activities. Obviously, if the consortium cannot do it, then by all means. We haven't set a percentage, but if you say you need to subcontract about 60 to 70% of your budget, there clearly will be a problem there.
There's another question there now. Will we receive any feedback on the EOI? What's the purpose of this? So Again, I might ask colleagues to help answer this one, but just to note the purpose of this EOI is it's really important for us as the as the managers of the call and to understand and be aware of the nature and scope of the applications that are being prepared. So the EOIs it's quite a short template, but it gives us the information to have a wider picture of what's coming in or likely to come in, and it may be a possibility for us to engage then with applicants in the run-up if we feel there's something that is not in scope. But perhaps I could ask some of our other colleagues to respond on feedbacks to the EOI. Yeah, please.
Thanks, Neil. That's exactly correct. One thing I would like to add here is this is beneficial both for the technical assistance that we can provide if we have the needs earlier. Then also the grant agreement can be done quicker, because before the grant agreement, we need to decide on the technical assistance that we will provide to you in the dialogue. Beyond this, also, because we are not only aiming for those entities that have since years and decades established relations in the mission horizon, in the missions in Horizon Europe and so on and so forth, we are also aimed at, so to say, newcomers. And there an expression of interest comes in quite handy, because we might be able to some limited extent for some questions support and give guidance in where to find information. To some limited extent, because obviously we can't tell you how to answer questions, but if there might be some instances where we can guide very new applicants to some way, shape, and form of what is the meaning of specific wording in a call or things like that, that you in the end will have to decide yourself. But this is both beneficial because later up and once you are funded, this makes things quicker, and also there is a possibility and some limited form of support for the application can be given.
Great, thanks, Sebastian. Okay. We have no more questions that I can see appearing in the Q&A. Okay. And nothing in the chat. Okay. We have a raised hand. Sorry, Sebastian, sorry, please go ahead. Yeah.
There's one thing I would like to add, which is, and I think you already made this very clear, but just to reiterate this, in the end, it's the call documents that matter, the call guidelines, the call documents. So if there is any question that you might have, please always reach out to info@blueactionaa.eu and consider the call guidelines, the call documents, because those are the only legally binding things. And those answers that you receive in writing from info@blueactionaa.eu. Please always consider the call guidelines, the call documents, because they are the only legally binding documents. And we are more than happy if you reach out and we can have a chat, or we can respond via writing.
Great. Okay. Sinead, please.
Yeah, I'm just sending in the chat there, just a reminder on the survey if you wanted to add, there's some very short questions there as well, just regarding potential proposals and what expertise may be lacking, etc., and just how you heard about it. So I'll just share it again, just in case anyone missed it at the beginning.
Great, thanks. Please do, Sinead. Yeah. And we do encourage you to complete that. It's not a long survey. Yeah. Okay, nothing else coming through. There's the survey and the link. So in that case, I think then we can close the webinar. Hopefully we've been able to answer all of your questions, and that you have got a clearer picture now of the transition agenda call. But I would again point you to the website. All of the information, both on the transition agenda call and the community-led call, are available on our website with all the necessary guidelines for applicants, and so on and so forth. And all the webinars that, including this one, will be available there as well. And don't forget, if you're interested in transition agenda, that's great, and you're in the right webinar, but you may also be interested in the community-led call. So the information, that call is also open, but just a reminder, while multiple submissions are possible, you can only be funded once under BlueActionAA, whatever call you participate in. So just take that into account. Other than that, I'd just like to thank all of you for joining. It's been good to hear the interest out there from the potential applicants. And I would like to thank also the presenters and organizers of the webinar today, in particular Mariette and Emmanuel from ESF and Sebastian from Neva and Sinead from my colleague from the Marine Institute. So, and Patricia and Alessandro, I beg your pardon, not forgetting our hosts from the Air Centre who do all the technical work to make it possible. So thanks, guys, to all of you for your support in organizing the webinar. Further webinars will follow. Do we have, dates? Anyone could tell me the dates before we close out of the next webinars? I'm sorry, I don't have them to hand.
The next one is on Thursday.
That's the community-led first thematic webinar on marine restoration. Okay, so if you're interested in that, we've the third webinar for the community-led calls, which is a thematically focused one on marine restoration projects, and that's this Thursday, 12th of March. All the information on BlueActionAA. Okay, with that, we definitely will now close out. Thanks again, everyone, and take care. Bye-bye.